Welcome, listeners, to a realm where shadows dance and whispers echo. I'm your host, Rick Clifton, and this is Quills and Chills, the podcast that brings you face to face with the masterminds behind the macabre. In each episode, we journey into the minds of horror writers and filmmakers to uncover the secrets lurking within their tales of terror. From classic tales to modern nightmares, we'll traverse the corridors of the human psyche and unravel the threads of dread that keep us turning the pages or sitting out there in the dark. Welcome to Quills and Chills. Right. All right. Hello and welcome back, everybody, to Quills and Chills. I'm your host, Rick Clifton, and today I am talking with best-selling author Josh Malerman. Josh is a New York Times best-selling author. His debut novel, you guys know, Bird Box, was the inspiration for the hit Netflix film of the same name. His other novels also include Daphne, Pearl, Spin of a Black Yarn, and Mallory, which was, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, the sequel to Bird Box?
Yeah, sure was.
Right on. Josh is also part of a band called The High Strung, which I really want to hear about. So thank you so much for joining the show, Josh.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm excited to talk the band. You know, just as a precursor, me and the bandmates, we've been best friends since we were like 11 years old. So the fact that we're still putting out albums and still practicing and still playing is like, it's kind of amazing. We've reached the point where it's like, how could you even break up? Like, what would be the point of breaking up?
Right.
At this point, what would even be the point? Yeah.
That's fantastic. I just so you know, I've been streaming you since last night. I've been streaming the band and the songs and stuff just to kind of get it in my head. So I'm not a musician by any stretch of the imagination, but I love music of all kind. I'm a big lover of jazz, and blues, but your rock and your style and everything is also great happy hour music. So I thought I would stream it today at my little Friday afternoon happy hour. So
we'll see. Oh, wow. That's amazing. Thanks.
So, cool. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up? You've talked about the band a little bit, but what other things inspire you creatively?
Well, I grew up like in the suburbs of Detroit and for a long time kind of was the kind of person who just kind of like did what everyone else was doing, just kind of like went with the flow, did well in school, was the captain of the track team. Not that I was the best runner, and just sort of like, oh, I guess I go to college next and this and that, just like sort of like just chancing along, but didn't realize till later that there was sort of a breadcrumbs of like a writer's life. Like, for example, I played on this travel basketball team and we had a tournament in Ohio. And when we got back, I wrote like a 40 to 50 page account of that tournament. Now, if you think about high school, a 3-page story is a lot. So 50 pages for a high schooler, just be like, but I didn't realize what that was at the time. I was just like, oh, this is fun. This is, I got to do this. Years later, it's easy to see, here's a writer doesn't quite realize he's a writer or can be a writer yet, doesn't realize that yet. So, in terms of, I think it would be my friends who were already in bands who showed me like, hey, I would go to their shows and it would be like, hey, you can do this too. And so, and that was around age 19, 20. So I didn't pick up an instrument until I was about like 20, which I, at the time, felt like a disadvantage, but now feels like a blessing because being a late bloomer, I didn't get tired of it by age like 30, where like some other friends did, right? And same thing with writing too. I tried to write my first novel at 19 and didn't pull it off until I was 29. And then something about not finishing a novel until 29. Now, almost like 20 years later, it's like I'm still grateful for that breakthrough because there was a whole decade of not being able to do it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So late bloomer, suburbs of Detroit. But when I got bit by the bug, I really got bit.
Oh, that's fantastic. What's your process for writing? Are you someone that just dives in with both feet? Are you an obsessive plotter, planner? Do you just do a little bit of both? What's your style?
I'm probably the most pell-mell guest you'll ever have. I'm the least plotter like you could possibly meet. I had an idea for a book on April 9th. I thought of it that night and I started it April 10th and like 17 days later, 300 pages later, done. And that draft needs a lot of work. But I do sort of cherish the rough draft, and I revere the rough draft as a concept, mostly above all else, because to me, it's like, it's not just like the jam in music, but it is a bit like that. It's like the finding the voice, the jam, the taking risks, doing things for, I don't know why, but later on they make sense. And there's no sense during the rough draft of, what's the right word, sales or commerce or this, no sense at all during there. And it's like you just picked up a guitar and you're high without smoking a joint or something when I'm writing a rough draft. And so those for me will always be, even I just got Incidents Around the House hardcover like in the mail the other day, and like, oh my God, this is the greatest feeling. But there is one feeling that is unmatched in my life, and that's finishing a rough draft. So for me, it's like, I don't know that I want to know everything that happens. I don't know that I want to strategize. I don't know that I don't want to think about it in sort of I don't want to intellectualize the rough draft. I want it to be like a vibe, a feeling, a jam. Like you said, you're into jazz. The closest experience I have to playing jazz is writing rough drafts.
You're exactly right, though. I mean, it's just like when you get the bones of it, it doesn't matter about the details. It's like the structure. And I'm not structured. Structure's not the right word, but you've got the body of it. You just feel it, and I can sort of relate to that in a lot of ways. The hardest part for me is to start writing, but even reading, it's just to start. But once you get, like, for me, 15, 20 minutes into it, then the floodgates open and it just everything
Totally,
comes out.
totally. I have like thoughts about this where there's getting into like running shape. I don't run anymore. I wish I did. I should. But just like there's running shape or lifting weight shape, whatever, there's reading shape, there's writing shape. If I haven't read a book, and this happens now and then, if I haven't read a book in like 5-6 weeks, a novella looks intimidating. But if I'm rolling, if I've read like 5-6 books in a row, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to read all of Proust next,
God, I can relate to that. The past few weeks for me, I've had so many books I've been trying, for the show, just trying to get through books. And I've sort of hit my stride now. So I'm just sort of getting through them fast. But boy, like you said, at the beginning, it's very daunting for sure. So, but I will tell you, you're not the only one that I've talked to. There are quite a few that do not plot and do not plan. They just prefer to just dive in and go. So you're not alone there.
I have written a few, I guess I'll call it an outline, but it's not, I don't know if it's really an outline. It's more like landmark moments. Like you have the idea for the book, usually like how you would tell your friend at the bar. So this is the book idea I have. You don't just say like, there's something under the bed, right? I mean, there's some fleshed outness to the idea. I'll write that down like sometimes even on here on the office walls. So I'll have, it's not an outline, but it's sort of like 8-point, of the idea or something like that.
Yeah, I've got scrap paper all around that, just like an idea, and throw it down, like get it out of your head and onto paper, and then it'll come to life at some point. So, all right. So my biggest question, as someone who is very passionate about horror myself and have been since I can remember, I'm always very intrigued by how other people find their path to horror. So how did you arrive here? And
well, this is amazing as this fits right in with the last thing we were just talking about, which is, I think I was 10, 11, something like that. And I'm just playing basketball in my cousin's driveway. And I don't know what I said. I don't know what I had either drawn, written, or said, but my uncle said to me, hey, Josh, I think there's a movie you would particularly like. And it was Twilight Zone, the movie. And I had never seen a scary movie before. And he put the VHS tape on. And from the word go, I was like, it was like, this is it. It was like, so clearly, this is it, whatever this feeling is. And I think that's an interesting thing to me now that Twilight Zone was the first movie, because I'll often be told that no two books of mine are the same, that kind of thing. If your name wasn't on the front of Incidents Around the House, I wouldn't know that you wrote Unburied Carol, and I wouldn't know that you wrote Bird Box, da-da-da. And if you think about it, the first movie I saw was an anthology by five, 6 different directors. And so my very first experience with horror was, hey man, anything goes. Like all these varieties, from the social commentary of the first segment to the Spielberg heartstring segment to the Imagination Unchained of Joe Dante. and the creature feature of the last segment, the monster on the airplane. And so like literally it was like a horror education in like 90 minutes.
Exactly.
It was like
you got it all. I love it.
Yeah, I got it all in like 90 minutes. And then from there it was unstoppable from there. Friends and I renting Nightmare on Elm Street, then go back to the store for number 2, back to the store for number 3, and I mean, just an absolute love affair from the word go, a small sense of I'm not supposed to be doing this, a bigger sense of maybe this kind of thing is possible, meaning that things could exist beyond the known world. And if that isn't thrilling, what is? And so horror just opened up. It was for me, fantasy feels like the imagination unchained, but horror is like, can be the same, but like with the lights dimmed. And I just like it. I like playing in the dark a little bit better, and it's just a lot better. And there was something so appealing about that, like from the word go of like, sometimes I'll see people sort of bemoan, horror. People look down on horror or that kind of thing. And I understand, but there's a side of me that's like, I kind of like that. Or I don't like that people would look down on you, but I kind of like writing in a field that's maybe in the corner a little. I like writing in a field that's like shadowy. I like writing in a field where someone says to me, whoa, where do those ideas come from? And that's like a fun place to play.
You're exactly right. I mean, it feels like punk rock in a way to me,
Yeah.
that you're a little bit on the edge in horror when you're, when I haven't worked in horror in a long time, and I just very recently came back into it with the show, and coming back into it, I was like, God, I haven't read a book and I don't know how long, like a horror book. And the first one I read was a haunted house story, and my God, I was like, I have missed this. Where have I been?
Yeah,
So
that's interesting. So wait, do you remember what story it was?
I do. It's called The September House by Carissa Orlando.
Oh yeah, I know that. So so I had a similar thing, but it was when I was 22, 23. I had sort of like grown up with horror novels after really my uncle introduced me to the genre. And then I wouldn't say I like turned my back on it, but I started reading like only like classics. You know how Barnes and Noble had that sort of classics, like their own of them. So I would read like, I'm reading like Virginia Woolf and Anne Proust and Hemingway, Fitzgerald, Faulkner, and Toni Morrison, all this like, and on that classic shelf was Dracula. So I had like 3 years away, and I pick up Dracula, and I was like, oh, it's right there. and I was like, Dracula. I haven't read Dracula. I'm like 24. And I read that book and I was like, wait a minute. Not only did I forget horror for a second, and maybe that was good. Maybe like a sabbatical was good. Not only did I forget it for a second, but I didn't quite realize until I read Dracula that horror can be a classic.
Yep.
That a horror is just as, and like I was saying a second ago, someone frowning upon, frown on this. Horror, all the classics are a little bit horror to begin with, but you know what I'm saying. Like Dracula, a vampire story, is as good as any other novel I've ever read. Okay, that's it.
Yeah. I think the first book I read was Cujo. The second one I read was Halloween. Before I saw the movie, I read the book. And I know the movie was out before the book, but I read the book, and both of them scared the absolute living crap out of me, and I was hooked ever since. So
wait, are you talking about the novelization?
Yes.
Because I have that, right? I have that on this rack behind this computer.
Of Halloween?
You want me to grab it?
Yeah, I love that. Here,
let me grab it. Hold on.
Does it got the pumpkin on the cover? I love it. The jack-o'-lantern.
Hold on. Where are you? I have a whole section of Omen, The Thing, Reanimated, something.
Oh my God, Josh, I love you. I love you so much already, man.
Where? Oh no, are you not here? It might be in this in like the more precious zone.
Well, that's all right. You've inspired me. I will find a version for myself. Like I have Dracula. I will find out.
Okay. No, this is Halloween 2. But I know I do have Halloween as well. I may as well show you Halloween 2 while I'm here, though, because I went over Halloween 2.
Oh, love it. Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. Well, let's talk about this amazing book, Incidents Around the House. My God, I couldn't put it down, my friend. I was just obsessed with this. I'm going to ask the obligatory, tell us what the book is about, but I also want to talk about, and you can wrap it in however you want, not just the premise, but the POV of the story. How did you arrive there? I mean, that's just it's unique as hell, and I loved it. And like from the first page, I was like, okay, I'm all in on this book. So
Oh, amazing. First of all, thank you. That's incredible. So yeah, the book, okay, for listeners, the book is about, it's narrated by 8-year-old Bella. Bella, she narrates the entire book. She lives with mommy and daddo and something else in the house that she refers to as other mommy. And other mommy visits Bella often. And every time she does, she has the same question for her, which is, can I go into your heart? Can I go into your heart? And Bella, wise as she is, isn't exactly quite sure how to answer. Just like none of us would be sure how to, well, we would say no and run. Believe me, they try that numerous times. But the longer Bella takes to answer, the more impatient other mommy gets, the bolder, the meaner. And I would probably say that the book opens about when other mommy is starting to get impatient with Bella. And so there's some history there that we learn a little bit about, but really we're at the point where like other mommy needs an answer. Can I go into your heart or not? And so in terms of the point of view, as I said, I'll write on the wall just like a couple ideas, and I see right above the computer on the wall, it says, can an 8-year-old narrate an entire novel without being unreliable? And that was the main tenet that I had while writing, was Bella is not unreliable. This is not imaginary. No, it's not a question of people believing her. Bella is true. And to support that, I'm going to have to make it so the other characters in the book experience other mommy right away also. And so with those sort of pillars in mind, that was really like the slingshot angle from writing Bella.
I absolutely love that, because that is one thing. As I was reading through, I kept expecting every step of the way for someone to tell her, well, you're imagining this, right? This is part of your over active imagination and all of that. And like you said, then they got to experience what she was experiencing, and then it just became it was all of their issue basically to deal with. And I love that you said that Bella was wise, because that was my feeling from the start, is this brave, smart, but intelligent, but haunted little girl who is, sort of telling this story from her point of view all the way through it. And it's just, I thought it was really great. What challenges did you face in trying to keep her reliable and to sort of to bring her to life and from cover to cover?
That's a great question. I have not been asked that question, so I need to think. Well, I've only done like a couple interviews for this book. I mean, you're only like the third or fourth person I've talked to about this. One of the crazy challenges was in the rewrite, realizing that you had ascribed like really adult language to her without realizing you had. The smallest passive things, like mommy sat beside me upon the couch. Like, wait, hold on. Mommy sat beside me upon the couch. Like, mommy sat next to me. Mommy plopped on the couch next to me. Mommy's next to me now. Like, let's and that's not to say that Bella isn't smart enough to speak this other way or think that way, but she is 8. So there was a challenge in terms of like maintaining her voice throughout, because you wouldn't even like realize it till like you would go through the whole draft, rewrite, you look again, and you'd be like, no 8-year-old would ever say that. I would never say mommy sat beside me upon the couch. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, okay, hold on, So there was some wrangling and lassoing like her voice. In terms of the reliability, it really came down to the fact that not only does Bella not know what to do, but neither does mommy, daddo, grandma, the police, ghost hunters, occultists, the church. Like, in one by one, you begin to realize like nobody knows any more than she does, not in reality. And I'm not someone who seeks reality in my art, or meaning anything. I don't seek it elsewhere, and I don't really look for it in my own. But for some reason in this book and with Bird Box, the scenario itself was so either abstract or strange or haunting, that I want the characters to react as realistic as possible. And all I can think about, I don't have a kid, but all I can think about is if I walked into my daughter's bedroom and saw that thing sitting on the end of the bed talking to her, facing the other way, I don't even know for sure that I would grab the kid. I don't know what I would have done. I don't know what I would have done. And
I know what I would have done. I'd have burned the damn house down. That would have been
right,
it.
Right. I brought that up to a friend and they're like, I think that I would have fought her. And I'm like, whoa, okay. You would have went after other mommy. Okay. All right. But that makes sense. But like, I really was sitting here like, no, seriously, what would you do? And I'm like, I'd be scared out of my effing mind, man. I would grab my daughter, run, and be like, we can't ever go in this house again. Like literally ever again. And because I do think that in horror movies, there is sort of this like understood, unspoken, like the parents will save us, or the parents must know more than the kids. But would they? Would anybody know more about other mommy than Bella? Well, I mean, like, no. Like, what? How would you know? Why? Because you saw in a movie about a cross or something. Like, what would you do about this thing, right? So, right.
What I loved, and I want to come back to Mommy and Dado in a sec, but you just touched on something I was going to ask you about. Was something you wrote in the book really connected with me, and it's exactly what you were just saying, is that there's so many people that are interested in this world, that are interested in the occult, right? And that what if something actually did happen? Is there actually anybody you can really call for help? I mean, sure, you're interested in it, but do you really know what the hell to do? I mean, and so
Yes.
when I read that, I had to sit with it for a minute, because I was like, that's right. I mean, it's just, what would I do? Like, I thought about it for myself, like, what would I do? Who would I call? I know people that love ghost stories, but if I actually had a ghost, who the hell would I call? So
There's I know one. I have an occultist friend named John Tenney, an amazing, look him up after this, just a brilliant thinker, a brilliant lecturer. And he does go around and do ghost hunts, and he had a show on AMC, and a brilliant dude. And I don't think John would know what to do about other mommy any more than Bella would. Like it's like, and he is like a beacon for me in the community over here and really worldwide. And it's like, I don't know that John would know what to do either, man. And so I'm so glad that moment resonated with you, because honestly, that and one more thing we'll talk about later, remind me of that magnifying glass. Remind me of that later. That's really what I want. That's what the book is. What you said, that for you to recognize that moment and feel that and say, who the hell would I call about this? That's really what Incidents Around the House is.
Yeah, it like I said, I just had to sit with it for a second. I just want to backtrack one sec. We were talking about Bella, but I don't want to skip over Mommy and Dado, or Russ and Ursula, I think are the characters' names. And they come loaded with their own issues, their own motivations, their own backstories. And I want to have you sort of talk about their journey a little bit, obviously without spoilers, but their journey in this story as well, along with Bella.
I think, I got one email from a great friend writer that was like, I hate these two about the parents. But here's my take. And I believe me, I understand that reaction, especially to Mommy. But my take is like, isn't it okay for Mommy, or for a person, to be a bad parent at this age, but maybe a good one at that age? So in other words, Mommy is obviously not equipped to be Mommy right now, like just beyond other Mommy. She is just not squared up right now. But maybe Bella as a teenager, they could be like best friends. Bella as like a 30-year-old with Mommy could be like inseparable.
Right.
And so there is like this side of me that's like, maybe Mommy's just bad right now, like, as a parent. The thing about Dado that I just, I hit on it early, and I guess this is a little bit of a spoiler, but not really. All of this is throughout the entire book. Dado, in terms of other Mommy, like might be cheating, and that, or I'm sorry, not other Mommy. Mommy might be cheating.
Yeah, she's up to a lot, other Mommy.
Yeah. Like, who else are you haunting? Damn it. But Mommy, like, Dado is like sort of like okay with it or something. Or something. It's like he's sort of like, they're not getting divorced over it. He's not threatening breaking up over it. He's not, it's just sort of like, it's almost like that indicates to me in a strange way, either how much he loves mommy or how like they actually are like best friends. Because there's almost a sense from Dado of like, come on, Ursula, get your shit together, rather than like, well, if you're not, if you're not just with me, we're breaking up. You're ruining this family, Ursula. There isn't that really feeling at all. Like Dado is perhaps loose to a fault, forgiving to a fault, easygoing to a fault, which drives mommy crazy. But once that sort of element struck early, I was like, oh, leave that Dado is maybe, it's not that he's into it, maybe he is, but it's more like he's like it's not a deal breaker for him. He's not going to divorce her over it. And that to me says something about them.
And I think you addressed that too at one point, that mommy actually says that to him, is like, you actually, and I love the way you just sort of like layered it in there. And that, one night, I guess when they were partying and drinking, he said he was kind of okay with it or whatever. And once I, because I was kind of feeling the same way in the beginning. I was like, oh, what the hell's going on here? Right? Like, is this an open relationship or
Right.
I couldn't quite figure out sort of what the vibe was. And it's great because of the POV of the story. Bella doesn't know either, so maybe we shouldn't know as the reader yet. So I wasn't put off by it. I was just like, okay, what's going to happen? And then I think as their story sort of developed, by the end of the story, I actually really loved the two of them. But I agree, Mom was getting on my nerves a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, lady.
I mean, she's just taking off sometimes in the middle of a terrible. She doesn't drive away.
Right? Like, where the hell did you go for 12 hours or wherever it was? Like, oh my God. So it's crazy. So sorry, without giving away too much, I kind of want to talk about what do you think is a pivotal moment or a scene that you think readers should look forward to? For me, I'll just say the moment you were just talking about with other mommy sitting at the edge of the bed and how that whole scene played out. And again, I'm trying to not reveal any spoilers, but holy crap. So when I'm not actually reading the book, I'm listening to the book when I'm driving. I live in LA, so you sit in traffic a lot. So I will listen to the book sometimes too. I nearly hit a car because I was listening to that moment. I was like, oh, what? It freaked me out. So I had to go back and actually reread. I wanted to reread it. I was like, did I hear that right? And so I had to actually go back and reread it. It's brilliant. Brilliant. I loved it. It was one of my favorite moments. I mean, there are a lot of great moments, but the twist was really great. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now your turn. What's your favorite moment?
I think you're probably going to know this answer. It would seem real obvious to me what the centerpiece scene would be at Evelyn's house when mommy and Dado are like, screw it, let's drink. and
Yep.
That sequence is like it's like a ticking time bomb. We're like, no, do not get drunk in the middle of this kind of moment, man.
I mean, I understand stress can make a person want a shot or two, but come on, man.
Yeah, they let their guard down, to say the least. That scene was a real thrill to write. Like a just absolute thrill to write. It even got to the point where, and this is interesting because this goes to what we started with. So I typically write to, like, I have a bunch of horror music on vinyl, and I'll put on this record player right there. I'll put like an album from the shelves, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Shining, Creepshow, Under the Skin. I'll play music while I'm writing, and I could not.
So Josh, did you see my questions before we started?
No. Is this one of them?
That was one of my questions. I wanted to know, I know you're a lover of music, so do you use music when you're writing? And you literally every single question I have for you are answering for you. You are the best friggin' interview I think I've ever had. It's fantastic. I'm just going to shut up and let you talk. Go.
I couldn't find the right vibe. I'm like, I started with something that was like, sort of like, and I'm like, yeah, it just feels a little too like straight or something. And then I'm like, okay. And then it was like thunderous, like Danny Elfman. I'm like, no, they're way too playful. And then I was like going to like darker industrial. I'm like, no, this is like metallic. It's got to be more organic. Finally, I was like, have you ever written a book to silence, Josh? Have you ever written to no music at all? And I was like, whoa, really? Are we going to write a book to the house? And I did. I was like, all right, screw it. And I turned the lights off, and the book was written at night. And we have cats, so you'd hear this little like pattering far down the hall, and it was freaky. It was freaky. And if you ask me, you can hear the absence of music in this book. Whereas Bird Box, I can hear this like sort of pulse, like This book is like I can just hear cold wind blowing, and so that scene with Evelyn, I write that scene, and then I had to get up out of the office. I go and I find Allison further in the house, and I'm like, hey, so how you doing? You know, and she's like, it's like, are you freaked out right now? I'm like, no. I was just wondering what you're up to.
Oh God, I love that. I love that so much. And you're absolutely right. You can totally hear it. And the creaking of the house, it's all there, you know, and the movement and the stillness of it and all of that. So it's fantastic. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, you've answered that question. So I feel like horror is kind of like an allegory, right, for life sometimes, or it can reflect societal fears and stuff. And, you know, we could get into a whole philosophical debate about horror over time, but I'm just wondering, what's what do you feel like is the big contemporary issue or theme in incidents around the house? I realize that's a very sort of intellectual question, but I'm just kind of curious what you want people to leave with.
I do think that there is, if I was going to look through that lens, the mommy-daddo relationship is a big factor in that. In terms of their relationship feels more modern to me. Not open relationship, but just a sense of like, we're both humans and it's okay if one of us messes up and that kind of thing. And I think that that's more understood now than generations past in a fairly major way. And even that sense of there's a situation here that nobody knows how to solve. And so we're all just going to stand here and scream and be horrified. And and you can easily equate that to where we're at right now.
Oh, yes, you can.
Yeah. So there is like a sense of like, who are you going to call about this? Oh, you know, nobody knows how to solve this. I think that, you know, somebody could. Well, that would be a bit spoilery. I'm not going to go that route, I guess. I suppose somebody could say in the breakdown of the family, and mommy is a bit, the fact that mommy is a bit here and there and not maybe equipped right now. Oh, and now there's an entity called other mommy. Like that makes some sense. Like Bella's like, if she was unreliable, you might think that she was manufacturing that, but she's not. And it's also, it's not other mommy. You know what I mean? This is a whole other thing. I think, to me, the most like in a less grandiose way and in a more genre way, what I think the book really is about, and this is the magnifying glass, is we've seen many possession stories where, and this is okay, I'm not ripping on anyone for doing this or whatever, but where there's the character, there's like maybe showing signs of being possessed, and now we got to get this thing out of them, right? And Incidents Around the House is like putting a magnifying glass up to the entity's attempt to get in. The entire book is the entity's attempt to get in. And that's fun to me in a genre way, to like pause on that spot of the arc and then like zoom in and, hey, can we write a whole novel about just this part of it? Like, forget if it succeeds or not. And if it were to succeed, there, you know, that would normally be the second half of the novel or something, right? Now you have a possessed person or something. No. Let's not even worry about what happens, yes or no. Just it's trying to get in and using all of its cleverness or not, its brutishness or not, whatever it has, whatever tools it has to get in. If we can focus on that for a full novel, that kind of thing makes me feel like, well, man, we could write a book about anything.
I mean, I love the way your brain works. I swear to God, I do. It's fantastic. I was actually thinking about that this morning in terms of like where you come into the story and where you leave the story as well. And you're exactly, everything you just said is just spot on. It's like, no one's done that. And it's just, it's really great. It's one of the reasons why I absolutely love this book. So,
wow, thank you.
Having tackled this amazing book, what's up next for you? What are you working on now? What can you tell us about? What are you able to talk about at this point?
Well, I'm the kind of person that, you know, I'm an optimist and I'm a nice guy, but there's one thing that drives me nuts, and it's when I can't announce things. Like the Fort Knox like nature of keeping things under wraps drives me insane, because I feel like it just benefits us all. And I understand why a movie studio or this or that would be like, hey, we don't want to announce a bunch of things and then look like we don't make what we announce, or so. I get it. Okay, fine. But also, who cares? Like, we can announce, like, come on.
Things helps. Change. I mean, situations change. If it doesn't move forward, it doesn't move forward. You should get people excited. I agree. I totally agree with you.
Right. And we've seen a million times where we saw something announced, and then it's not like we're like, they said it was announced. We're just like, oh, they haven't made it yet or something. So I guess I'll just say a couple things that I'm probably not supposed to say, which are I wrote a nonfiction book, and please don't imagine any research done. It's a nonfiction book about this really profound night that Allison and I had about 12 years ago. And that book was picked up by Del Rey. And so, and then this is super exciting, because me and my agent, Kristen, we didn't expect that. I was like, I want to write this book. I've been wanting to write it for 12 years since that night happened. And I'm like, I want to write it for, I'm just going to write it. And I sent it to Kristen thinking, my first instinct was Kristen's be like, what the hell do I do with this? But then I was like, you know what? Actually, I think she's going to like this. And then she did. And she was like, we got to go to Del Rey first, because that's your publisher. If they say no, we could go somewhere else. And we were both kind of like prepared for that. Del Rey, we do horror novels with, and they do like fiction mostly, And so, but no, they wanted to do it and picked it up, and here we have. So, and this hasn't been announced yet, but yeah, have a nonfiction book coming out. Should be next year. I got to rewrite it still. And I'll just say this, there's good movie news for Incidents.
Oh, okay. Good. I'm very happy to hear that, because this will translate so damn good. It's really going to translate well on the screen, I think. So that's fantastic. I'm happy to hear that. Yay. Congrats.
Yes. Thank you.
So, all right. So the book is called Incidents Around the House. It's available everywhere June 25th. So as we always like to say here at Quills and Chills, please support your local bookstores. Josh, how can our listeners find you on social media?
It's just my name, Josh Malerman, and there's only one L in Malerman, just to remind people, or so they know. On Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I will say, though, the website, joshmalerman.com, does have a fun thing. There's an entire novel that is up there for free, and it's available nowhere else right now. So there's the book is longer than Bird Box. It's longer than Incidents, and it's just up there to be read. There are no number of views, likes, reviews. It's just a novel just sitting there to be read for free if you want it.
Fantastic. I will be checking that out this afternoon. So, Josh, thank you so much for talking to me today. I appreciate you having you here. You are probably my new favorite. I hope we become besties. Not the last time we talked, because I could seriously talk to you all weekend. So
Same.
All right. Thank you, guys. And we'll see you next time on Quills and Chills.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for joining me on another episode of Quills and Chills. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the mysterious and the haunted. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to support us by subscribing on your preferred podcast platform and leaving us a rating or review, because your feedback helps keep those chills running down both our spines. And feel free to share the show with your favorite fellow horror enthusiasts. Also, if you guys have any spooky stories, strange encounters, or paranormal experiences of your own, I'd love to hear them. Reach out to me on social media or email me at quillsandchillspodcast@gmail.com. Who knows? Your story might end up on a very special episode. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I will see you back here next time on Quills and Chills. Bye, y'all.